throwaway account, because honestly, some of my real-life friends still tease me about this. But I have to get it off my chest. Back in my early college days, I fell head over heels for a girl who eventually forced me to choose between a digital future with Captain Picard and a relationship with her. Let's go back. This was the era before streaming algorithms or mobile phones were in every student's pocket. Star Trek: The Next Generation aired exactly once a week on a very specific night at a very specific hour. There was no pausing. There was no catching it on demand later. It was appointment television, and I was a devout, card-carrying Trekkie. My dorm room wall literally had a framed schematic of the Enterprise D. Everyone in my orbit knew this, including the girl I was dating at the time. She seemed sweet at first. However, early on, a glaring incompatibility surfaced. She needed to be the absolute epicenter of my universe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, consequently demanding my complete focus whenever the mood struck her. One Tuesday evening, right as the iconic opening voiceover began, my dorm room landline phone rang. Naturally, I assumed it might be an urgent matter, so I stared hopelessly at the plastic receiver sitting on my desk. I picked it up and pressed it against my ear while watching the television screen, trying to catch dialogue over her monologue about a frustrating lecture she'd just endured. When the episode finally rolled credits, we were still talking. Gently, I tried to set a boundary. I explained that this specific hour was my sacred weekly decompression time, yet she just brushed it off with a light laugh, treating it like a cute quirk rather than a real boundary. The following week, the exact same scenario played out. The moment the theme song started, the landline rang. I let it ring. Within seconds, it started up again, shrill and demanding. Worried something might actually be wrong, because who calls multiple times during a known boundary? I answered the second ring. Was there an emergency? No. She simply wanted to debate the ending of a movie she had just finished watching with her roommate. I was dumbfounded. I reminded her of our conversation from the previous week, pointing out that this was the 1 hour I asked to be left alone. Meanwhile, she accused me of being emotionally distant and cold. She fired back by asking how a silly science fiction show could possibly matter more to me than her feelings. That logic right there is a toxic trap. It reframes a reasonable personal boundary into a bitter competition against an inanimate object. But week 3 arrived, and the pattern cemented itself into something far more revealing. The landline rang precisely at start time again, not 2 minutes before. Right on the dot. This time, she didn't even pretend there was a reason. She launched straight into a breathless, 20-minute rant about a professor who gave her a grade she didn't like. When I tried to interject, reminding her of my standing request for 1 hour of quiet time, she lost her temper. She called me selfish and demanded to know why I wouldn't just give her my undivided attention. That was the exact moment it clicked. This wasn't an innocent memory lapse. Conversely, it was a deliberate test. She was actively competing with something that brought me joy simply because she couldn't stand the idea of me focusing on anything that didn't revolve entirely around her. Every single week, she intentionally demanded my time during the 1 hour I craved peace. So, I didn't yell. I didn't escalate into a massive, screaming match. I just let her finish her complaint, waited for her to take a breath, and spoke softly. I told her that if she couldn't respect a simple, harmless boundary like giving me 1 hour a week for something I loved, then we simply shouldn't be together. She was utterly flabbergasted. She sputtered, called me immature, and asked if I was seriously dumping her over a TV show. I corrected her instantly. I wasn't dumping her over a TV show. I was dumping her because she refused to respect my time, my autonomy, or my personal boundaries. Then I hung up the landline, turned back to the TV screen, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Now that I'm much older, looking back at that college relationship with decades of perspective, I wholeheartedly agree with my past self's decision. Relationships aren't about merging into a single person where individual joy goes to die. They are about mutual respect. Someone who doesn't respect your personal interests, subsequently insisting on inserting themselves into your downtime just to test your loyalty, is someone you do not need in your life. Life is far too short to spend it with someone who treats your personal hobbies like personal insults. So yeah, I broke up with my college girlfriend over Star Trek. And honestly, make it so. And honestly, looking at a story like that, It sounds completely ridiculous to say out loud. Yeah, he dumped a girl because of Captain Picard. But the deeper you look into it, the more you realize it was never actually about a television show. It was about control. When you start setting boundaries, the people who are used to having absolute access to your time and attention are always going to call you selfish or dramatic. But notice how she didn't care about his downtime or his interests. She only cared that she couldn't override them. If you're in a relationship right now where you feel like you're walking on eggshells just to keep the peace and protect your own space, take this as your sign. You don't need permission to enjoy your life, and you definitely don't need to apologize for having passions outside of a partner. So, I'm curious. Have any of you ever had to walk away from a situation because someone refused to respect your boundaries, only for them to act totally blindsided? Drop your stories in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And as always, make it so.